Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen yells at restaurant employees because she can't eat here with her family, then tries to kick me out. After that, how an old rain jacket became my defense against an entitled mom. And after that, I froze my psycho neighbor out of her apartment. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen loses her car keys, so please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for news stories from Reddit every single day. Karen yells at restaurant employees because she can't eat here with her family, then tries to kick me out. I witnessed my second wild Karen encounter today. So today, my friends and I decided to go eat ramen at a restaurant in the city. Just me, my friend, and another friend. Restaurants close down seats because of what's been going on, so there are less seats available. Now, this ramen restaurant is not very big, so there are only a few seats available. So here's the cast. We've got entitled mom, we've got me, we've got my friend, we've got the waiter, and the manager. So we're just minding our own business when this group of 6 walks into the restaurant. There are only a few seats available, so waiter informs them that they have to wait for the tables to clear up before they can be seated because seats are closed off for everyone's safety. Entitled mom. What do you mean I have to wait? Waiter. Because of what's going on, we're only leaving a certain amount of seating open. Oh, okay. Why don't you seat us there? She says, pointing to a table with a sign clearly stating closed. Waiter. As I said, they're closed because, oh, it's fine, just seat us there. We're not sick. Waiter. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to seat us there. I'm telling you to. So please do so now. Waiter. If you wait 20, come on. My angels are starving. She says this as she points to her family, consisting of toddlers whining about having to eat ramen. Waiter. We can seat some of you over at the bar if you guys don't need to eat as a group. Without even thanking him, she marches her family over to the bar and rips off the signs to make space for her kids. Waiter. I'm sorry, I can't have you do that. Entitled mom. I can do whatever I want. I am the customer. Waiter. I'm sorry, but if you can't respect our rules, you must leave. Let me talk to your manager. The waiter scoffs and goes to get the manager, who is one of the chefs. Manager. What seems to be the problem? Your rude waiter refused to let me sit at a table, so I had to sit here. Manager. I'm sorry, but you can't sit here. There are signs stating that these seats your kids are sitting on are closed. I don't care. I want to eat with my family. They are starving. Manager. I understand, but if you can't respect these rules, I'm gonna have to call the police. No! I am a loyal customer and have been for a month, and I deserve better service. Manager. If you wait, we can seat you over there. He gestures to our table. Okay. How long is the wait? 20 minutes. Entitled mom gasps, then walks over to us. You guys gotta go. Me. What? You heard me. Leave. You and your friends need to leave because you guys have been here too long. Me. We're not done yet. Don't talk back to your elders. Manager. If you don't leave now, I'm gonna call the police for harassing my customers. Realizing now that she can get in really big trouble, she and her entitled family leave. I ended up getting a meal on the house, but still, some people can be entitled during what's going on. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Edit. Since many have asked, I think the Karen was mainland Chinese that speaks Cantonese. I can tell by her accent. The dad was an expat, so I don't know. The dad had no idea what they were saying and just nodded. This entire conversation was translated into English, so I did my best, but it's not perfect. Sometimes I had a hard time understanding her because of her heavy mainland Chinese accent. Speaking of ramen, what's your favorite flavor of ramen? Please let me know. How an old rain jacket became my defense against an entitled mom. This happened about 2 months ago. To give some more preface, a long time ago, I got an old hand-me-down jacket from my uncle who happened to work in the prison system. This jacket happened to have a DOJ, Federal Bureau of Prisons logo on it. I've worn it many times, and it's always garnered some interesting reactions from people. I just so happened to be wearing this jacket for our encounter with the entitled mom. Now, on to the story. Me and my fiance went out to grab a bite to eat on a Saturday evening. As we ordered and sat at our table, we decided to play with our Nintendo Switch, which apparently is entitled Mom Bait, while we waited for our food. After a few minutes, I had to go and use the bathroom. A few minutes after I left, according to my fiance, some lady, the entitled mom of the story, came up to our table and had her kid, the entitled kid, sit down in my chair, which prompted this exchange. "Excuse me, did you mind watching my kid? There's no kids' play area here, and I saw that you had a Switch for him to play." Entitled kid. "What games do you have on your Switch? Do you have Fortnite?" Entitled mom starts walking away. "Have fun!" Fiance, putting the Switch inside her bag. Ma'am? I'm sorry, but I didn't agree to watch your kid. He's your responsibility. Also, I don't trust people I don't know with my Switch." Entitled kid. "But my mom said I can play with your Switch." Entitled mom to my fiance. "Hey now, don't be like that. It's hard being a single mom. Plus, you obviously have the means to entertain my kid, so why not help me out?" Fiance. "Like I said, I'm not responsible for your kid. I didn't even invite him to sit here. Please leave." Entitled mom. "Now you listen to me. I know the owner here, and I will have you thrown out if you don't watch my kid." As the entitled mom is yelling this, I happen to be walking out of the bathroom towards the table where my fiance was. As I'm walking up, the entitled mom sees me coming and notices the DOJ logo on my jacket. A smirk crossed her face as I got to the table. Entitled mom tells me, "Now you look like someone in law enforcement. This rude lady here is refusing to give my little angel her Switch to play with after she promised to do so." Me, cutting her off and with a stern voice. "Is there a reason you're harassing my fiance and trying to take the Switch I bought for her?" I watched as the entitled mom's smirk gave way to a look that said, "Oh crap." She quickly grabbed her kid and made a beeline to her table. The entitled mom didn't bother us afterwards outside of a few stolen glances. We got our food, ate it, and left after finishing our meal. I was glad I picked that day to wear my uncle's old raincoat. I froze my psycho neighbor out of her apartment. In college, my two friends and I decided to find a place together off campus. We found a beautiful 3-bedroom house with surprisingly affordable rent. The basement of the house was listed as a separate apartment, but as it had a separate entrance and the indoor stairwell had been blocked off, we weren't worried, and the thermostat was upstairs. Then the neighbor moved in. From upstairs, we could hear everything. This adult woman would call her mother and scream at her to pay for her cell phone bills and give her grocery money, aka Taco Bell. She would scream at whatever guy she was dating, and one day she brought home 3 puppies to scream at too. We were terrified of this woman, and the noise was heck. Also, we had been idiotic enough to sign a lease stating we were responsible for all utilities, period, meaning we were now financing her gas, water, and electric. But with only 2 months left on the lease, we thought we could just ride it out. But then she started smoking, constantly. According to the landlord, she had quit for good when she signed the lease, but for good only lasted 2 days. Since it was winter, the heat was running nearly 24/7 and the smoke was wafting up from the vents. Our apartment and all our belongings began to reek with smoke. We contacted the landlord because we had signed for a non-smoking apartment. He told us we lived in a state where you could technically call an apartment non-smoking even if it shared ventilation with a smoking apartment. Forget you, leasing laws. At this point, my 2 roommates were heading out for a 2-week vacation. They were online students, while I was residential, leaving me alone in the apartment with the jerk smoker in the basement. I couldn't sleep or eat because my idiotic stomach decided to react to all the secondhand smoke by aching and cramping constantly. After 3 days, I was a little insane. I made a plan. I checked the forecast, lows in the 20s all week. I borrowed a friend's ultra-insulated sleeping bag. I bought one of those ski masks with the holes for your eyes and mouth. I got out my stocking cap, my woolen socks, and my down parka. I bought tea, hot cocoa, and ramen, and prepared to live off a diet of hot liquids. And I turned off the heat. Day 1, she's screaming at her mother for forcing her to move into this frozen apartment. Day 2, she's screaming at her boyfriend because he won't let her move in with him. Day 3, she's screaming at the landlord about how she's freezing. Day 4, the landlord is at my door. I greet him in full ski mask, parka, stocking cap array, looking like I'm heading out to rob Santa Claus at the North Pole. He asks me if I don't find it a little chilly in the house. I reply, I had found all the cigarette smoke a little warm. Day 5, she's screaming about the jerks upstairs to anyone who will listen, and I'm sitting upstairs clutching my car keys and my pepper spray with 911 typed into my phone. She finally decides she's leaving and moving in with Greg, even though he just got out of prison and he lives in that creepy house in the woods with all those biting dogs. Day 6, she's gone. I silently bless Greg. Moral of the story, there's a reason the rent seems too good to be true. P.S. For those wondering, I did have a friend who worked plumbing stop by to give me some advice about how low I could go before I burst the water pipes to heck and back. Actually, Ken, I don't work here anymore. Or for you. A friend of mine recently reminded me of this, the absolute best time I ever had dealing with a Karen in the world. It happened about 30 years ago, so I'm going strictly by memory here. I also have no clue what the name for a male Karen is, so I'll call him Ken. I used to work for a chain convenience store, and back in the late 80s, it ran into financial trouble. Corporate decided that to cut costs, they would sell off/shut down all locations that didn't have a gas station attached. This included my location. Once the stores were sold/closed, our positions would be eliminated and we'd be out of a job. Although I was only the assistant manager for our location, I was effectively running things as corporate had decided to pull my manager off to a different location, and the assistant would be good enough since the store was closing anyway. Now onto the story. Cast. We've got head honcho guy from corporate, in charge of selling the store, slightly involved near the end. We've got Ken, the entitled dude who bought our location, and we've got me. Once Chain announced they were going to be closing the doors, it was no secret that we would be shutting down. Of course, us employees were still expected to give good customer service. That was usually no problem, as we were in a good area and we had pretty decent customers. They liked us, we liked them. But at the same time, we had no flips to give for the occasional Karens. It was nice being able to shut them down. What were they gonna do? Fire us? Good times. I wish I could remember specific instances, but 30 years, they all kinda run together now. The most entitled of all, though, was Ken. Turns out he had bought our location from Chain and would be taking over in about a month and a half. During that time, I was working with head honcho's guys from corporate, doing things at the store level for the sale. Meanwhile, Ken came in a few times a week, demanding that certain things be done, as if he already owned the place. He wanted us to change displays, order specific products, etc. Head honcho guys had already told me to ignore his demands, so all of them were met with some variation of, "No, Ken, I work for the chain, not for you. And this isn't your store yet," which sent Ken off in all his huffing glory, yelling that I wouldn't be acting like that once he ran the place. Fast forward to the final day. All the other employees had worked their last shifts, and as acting manager, I opened the store that morning. Head honcho guys arrived to go through whatever they needed, and shortly before noon, Ken showed up. Ken and head honcho's guys went into the back, and once they came back out, we closed the store in order to finalize everything. Head honcho guys and I cashed out the register for the last time, and most importantly, I turned over my key to the store. Once that was done, something close to the following happened. Head honcho: "Okay, Ken, we're done. It's all yours now." They start packing up to leave. Me: "Just making sure. Chain no longer owns this location. Ken is in charge now." "Yes?" Head honcho confirms. So I step out from behind the counter. Of course, Ken starts yelling. I think yelling was his default mode. Ken: "Where do you think you're going?" Me: "Home. What does it look like?" Ken: "You get back here and get your butt back behind that counter where it belongs." Me calmly: "No, I don't work for you." Ken: "What do you mean, no? I told you things would be different when I took over, and now you have to do what I tell you to do." Me with a huge grin on my face: "You just don't get it, do you?" Ken looks confused. "You bought the store, you bought the inventory, but you did not buy the employees, and you sure as heck didn't buy me. So I'll say it one last time and try to get this through to whatever functional cells may be floating around in your empty head. I don't work for you. Never have, never will. And since chain store number 1234 no longer exists, I don't work there anymore either. Since I'm no longer needed here, nod to head honcho guys, I'm leaving." Ken starts sputtering and yelling incoherently, realizing he now has nobody to work the register as I walk to the doors for my last time. Of course, I can't help myself. As I'm pushing the door open, I turn around, give Ken my best customer service smile, and a cheery, "Have a nice day." If I remember correctly, the store didn't open again for a couple of days, at least, while Ken tried to hire some employees. But anyone from the neighborhood who had seen him treating us so badly before the sale wanted nothing to do with him. And even once it reopened, it didn't last long. "That's great, Mrs. Can I have my fish cakes back now?" I live in a city center, near a Marks and Spencer. For those unaware of what that is, it's a fairly middle-class department store known for supplying overpriced clothing for middle-aged ladies, pretty but not very functional homewares, and posh foodstuffs. I don't shop there very often, but their food is quite good, so I sometimes swing by on my way home from work or on a weekend to treat myself to something tasty. If you hit the sweet spot, you can catch them when their yellow stickering produce goes out of date that day. I like doing this because their ready meals are quite good and freezable, so I can stock up quite cheaply and fill the freezer to discourage myself from ordering takeout. This particular incident took place on a Sunday afternoon, which is always a good time for yellow stickers because the store will have been quieter through the day. However, the payoff on this is that it's a haven for old, middle-aged ladies, the Twin Set and Pearl Brigade. They might think themselves posh, but their elbows are razor sharp, so there's a certain amount of risk involved going up against them for the crash and dent stuff. So I'm cruising around the store, perusing their wares. In M&S, they don't put the stickered produce in one place. It's also spread around the shelves as normal. So I usually hit the reduced section first and then go for a wonder. There was rich pickings, salad vegetables which I picked up for lunch stuff through the week for work, and then off I went in search of better things. A few ready meals, some meat, a sandwich, and some haddock fish cakes. Remember the fish cakes. The fish cakes are important. So I'm standing by a chiller, minding my own business, when I become aware of someone next to me. No biggie, it's a shop. People stand too close. I'm vaguely aware of an older, well-dressed lady at my elbow, but I don't pay much attention. She nudges the handbasket over my arm, so I step slightly away from her and carry on looking in the chiller. A few seconds later, there's another nudge, and then another. Getting annoyed now, I finally turn around and look at her. She's standing there with my fish cakes in her hand. Already in her basket is a bag of salad and some tomatoes, which she's taken from mine. She looks me right in the eye and slowly carries on taking the fish cakes from my basket and places them into hers. My face now must be a dictionary definition of what the heck. Me. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" Morag. She looked like Morag. "I'm sorry, are these things not for sale?" Me. "They were for sale. They're now in my basket." I start trying to reclaim my purchases and manage to get the salad before she steps back. "Yes, but if they're in your basket, they must be for sale, surely." Me. "I am buying them. Give them back, please." She's suddenly feigning, being a confused old dear. "Oh, but I assumed that if you work here, you were just putting them round the store for people to buy." At this point, I give her the Paddington stare. I'm wearing a Glasgow Warriors rugby shirt, blue denims and trainers. I have no makeup on, and my hair is stuck to the top of my head. She could not possibly think I worked here unless she had just stepped off the latest shuttle from Mars. Me. "Do I look like I work here?" "Well, it's hard to tell. Shop workers all look the same. Do you work in another shop? That must be it." Me, reaching for my tomatoes. "No, I don't. I am shopping. I do not work here. I am buying these things. Now, if you don't mind." I point at the fish cakes. She looks at me blankly. Me. "Mrs., can I have my fish cakes back, please?" "Oh, yes. Oh, of course. It's a shame. They're my husband's favorites. He loves them." Me, taking them back. "Yes, well, I like them too. There's plenty around the corner, full price if you want some." At this point, I walk away while she continues after me, mumbling about being a poor pensioner, but I just ignore her. I spend the rest of my time shopping with my basket in front of my body, and the final kicker? As I go to pay, she's at the "dine in for 12 pounds" chiller, engaged in a slightly more agitated conversation with another shopper and an actual staff member. Apparently, she tried to pull the same stunt with someone else who was less polite than I was. I left them arguing over the last beef Wellington with red wine sauce. Got kicked out of Walmart for defending a cashier. The year was 2014 in Calgary, Alberta at the beginning of November. The first major snowstorm had blown in and deposited a good amount of snow. Our company truck had blown a tire, and for insurance purposes, everyone in the truck, myself included, were not allowed to change it. So we took it to our wonderful Wally World to get the tire changed. We waited patiently in the waiting area so we could get to work. During this time, an irate customer, who shall be henceforth known as irate customer, was tearing into the poor associate working behind the counter. Side note, I had done this exact job when I was in university, so this didn't help. The conversation goes as follows. Customer: What do you mean you don't have my tires? Associate: I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any more in stock. The bays are filled and our stock is gone. This is BS. I wanted those tires. How could you sell all of them? I'm sorry, sir, but we can't sell you something we don't have. We will be restocked in a couple of days. Customer goes on an unholy rant on this poor associate for a good 5 minutes. During this time, I am just seething for how rude this guy is being and hoping he will calm down. Customer continues to look back at the door looking for support and then continues to berate this poor person. Now, I am a very soft-spoken individual. I do not start confrontation unless required, and at this point, I had had enough. I stood up and looked at the guy and said, Dude, it's the first snowstorm of the year in Canada. Why would you think there would be any tires left, let alone you being able to get it right away and get them put on? Customer shot daggers at me and said, Do you work here? Are you his manager? No. Shut up. This doesn't concern you. My coworker, who is 115 pounds of East Coast fire, gets right up into his face and says, How can you be such a jerk to someone just trying to do their job? Is your life so bad that you need to boss other people around to make you feel better about yourself? Now, I've never seen a mob mentality before, but it's amazing what happens when someone will call someone out on their BS and how quickly a crowd will jump to defend someone. They just need permission to act. Well, after 2 to 3 minutes of screaming and shouting with this guy, the store manager was called to deal with the issue. The associate was questioned by the supervisor, and other customers were filling them on the details. I was within earshot of the store manager and customer and heard this little gem. Customer: All the people are hating me because I'm not white. They're all a bunch of jerks and liars. Store manager: Don't you dare play that card with me. If I look through these security tapes, will I see a bunch of people ganging up on you because of what you look like? After all this was said and done, the man was removed from the store. The store manager came up to my coworkers and I and said, I appreciate that you guys stuck up for my associates, but because you instigated and elevated the issue, I'm going to ask you to leave. But I have a colleague down the street who operates a body shop. Take your truck there and he can get you in and out in about 30 minutes. So that is the tale on the best way and reason I have ever been kicked out of a store. I also hope it shows that if you see someone being rude to a customer, stand up for those people. They make minimum wage and should not have to suffer jerks who need a power trip. Girlfriend's entitled father ruins her birthday because everything wasn't his way. So my girlfriend had a doctor's appointment that my grandma and I, took her to, and it fell on her birthday. So as we get there, we found out we went to the wrong doctor's office, so we had to turn around and go 20 minutes through traffic. We get there, and soon we left the office. I surprised her by getting her Burger King, her favorite food. We get back to her house about 5 to 6 minutes late. When we get into her house and I help her with my daughter, we were instantly being bombarded and screamed at by entitled father. Why are you 5 minutes late? I try to explain to him why we were late, due to traffic and other means. Entitled father, still screaming, says, I don't want to hear your excuses, boy. Why are you late? My girlfriend is very upset about her being yelled at. She starts crying and goes to her room. My grandma tried to explain that it was beyond our control to why we are late. He straight up tells her that she is lying and tells girlfriend that I can't be there for her birthday, and she starts to cry more and plead to him that he needs to stop. Frustrated, I storm out of the house and go sit in the car. About 5 minutes later, she calls me and said that I can stay. We sit at the table and they bring out the cake, sing happy birthday, and start serving cake. Girlfriend is still very upset and still crying. Politely, she declined the cake and got up and left the room for the rest of the night. Her stepmom leaves the room upset and entitled father follows after her. 20 minutes later, entitled father comes out, tells me he is taking me home, and we leave. On the way home, he asked me why girlfriend wasn't happy about the cake and that it made stepmom very upset and that she went out of her way to get it, that she was crying about it. I sit there very baffled about what I heard, look at him and just say, Do you understand that you screamed at her on her birthday? Her day? The day she should be respected? Of course she is going to cry and not want cake. He starts to, but she made her cry. But I cut him off and say, you ruined your daughter's birthday and you made her cry, which made stepmom cry, so it's your fault. I put on my headphones and played music for the remainder of the car drive. 1 month later, he kicked her out. If y'all want more, there's more. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, Jay, Zay King, and Jeff. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.